Despite the headlines you may be seeing, including the title of this video, the penny is not going anywhere anytime soon, if that makes sense. It's just that they are going to stop producing them. And then the next question is what about the nickel? Well, let's talk about it in this video as we explore. That's right, the Treasury has unveiled now formally its plans to, quote, kill the penny, according to an article here from Chris Isidore and Matt Egan. And that is something that I thought actually they had already started. You know, there's been some conflicting information as to how much pennies were going to be produced from now until they stop doing it. Well, now that plan is officially in place, and if you're like me, you've already started seeing 2025 Lincoln cents, like the one you see here. These things were selling online for about $200 a roll upon the first announcement. For those who've been able to find some, of course, now you still may not be able to get rolls very easily, but you can find them in your change. They're pretty commonplace because there's literally millions of pennies and cents that have been created. By the way, the term penny is not associated with this coin technically. It's a cent. It's not a penny. Pennies are what were minted in the United Kingdom. And I think even the Royal Canadian Mint called theirs cents as well. The United States Treasury is phasing out production of the penny and will soon stop putting 1-cent coins into circulation, according to the department in a statement. And this news was first reported by the Wall Street Journal. A Treasury spokesperson said the government made its final order of penny blanks this month. And I thought that had already been done. I figured that they were already produced and they were going to be but they were finished. But apparently, it is just now taking place. The United States will continue to manufacture cents only as long as an inventory of the penny blanks exists, and those are called planchets when they're ready to strike. Consumers with pennies will still be able to use them for purchases, which means they're not going away. They're just going to be stopped being produced. And there's a lot of cents out there, no question about that. Consumers with pennies will be able to use them, but without new pennies moving into circulation, businesses that complete cash transactions will have to start rounding up or down to the nearest nickel. The move is not a surprise. The production of a penny costs more than the value of the coin. President Donald Trump said back in February that he ordered the U.S. Mint to stop making pennies, citing the cost. For far too long, the United States has minted pennies which literally cost us more than 2 cents. This is so wasteful. I have instructed my Secretary of the Treasury to stop producing new pennies. Let's rip the waste out of our great nation's budget, even if it's a penny at a time, Trump said in a post to social media as he returned to Washington from the Super Bowl in February. Trump actually undersold the cost argument. Pennies cost more than 3 cents each to produce. But the cost of a penny might be a smaller problem than the alternative. That's because the mint actually loses even more money on each nickel it produces. Each nickel costs 13.8 cents, and with 11 cents of production costs and 2.8 cents of administrative and distribution cost. Indeed, this thing is an expensive proposition to have one of these nickels made, whose content has not changed since 1946. It's been the same content. In fact, it was the same content even before the war. Between 1942 and 1945, they were 35% silver for the war effort. And so that is pretty pricey. These figures are for the government's most recent fiscal year, which ended in September. People have been talking about getting rid of the penny for years. During the most recent fiscal year, the Mint tried to cut those losses by making far fewer nickels, only 202 million, which is a lot, by the way, down 86% from the 1.4 billion nickels it minted in each of the previous 2 years. That's also far fewer than the 3.2 billion pennies it made in 2024, the 4.1 billion it made in 2023, and the 5.4 billion it made in 2022, which means that Abraham Lincoln, who is emblazoned on this coin, is by far the most minted figure in world history. No other figure comes close, although Elizabeth II can take the honor of being on the most different types of coins. It is indeed no contest with Abraham Lincoln. By the way, this coin here, minted from Denver, is indeed a 1 cent coin that is made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, whereas this coin here is an Abraham Lincoln coin here that is just 3% copper, and the balance is zinc. It's basically a copper-coated zinc. It looks, indeed, that's when our money was real. It was back in 1982. Nowadays, it is just a fraction of what it used to be. Wow, it's crazy. Nonetheless, these are coins that I think I'm going to start saving. Well, I have been. I've been saving the copper ones, and I'm going to just hold on to the copper coins because they're not going to mint them anymore. You know what? These things are worth a whole lot more than 3 and 4 cents, 5 cents for these things. So it's pretty remarkable for sure. Yes, indeed. So the Treasury Department did not address its plans for nickel production. It did estimate an immediate savings to taxpayers of $56 million from the halt of penny or cent production. Given the cost savings to the taxpayer, this is just another example of our administration cutting waste for the American taxpayer and making the government more efficient for the American people. Even if the mint has to make only 850,000 additional nickels in 2025 to meet demand, that would wipe out any savings from eliminating the penny. If the mint goes back up to making 1.4 million nickels a year, that would cost $78 million more than the savings from the pennies it stopped producing. The mint would likely have to make more nickels than that, probably in the range of 2 million to 2.5 million a year if it stops making pennies permanently. I'll tell you what, I think I might start saving my nickels too. Crazy. Wow. And that just goes to show you Gresham's law is in effect here. And I think you're going to start to see people hoarding pennies and nickels, even this variety. It's crazy. Wow. So the mint would likely have to make more nickels than that, probably in the range of 2 million to 2.5 million a year if it stops making pennies permanently, based on the track record of other countries that dropped their lowest value currency, according to Mark Weller, Executive Director of the Americans for Common Sense, a trade group funded primarily by Artisan, a company that is under contract to provide the blanks used to make these cents. In most countries, the lowest denominated coin is the most minted coin. But the idea of dropping the penny is supported by others, including some merchants. The National Association of Convenience Stores has agreed in the past with the idea of getting rid of the cent to speed transaction time, even if only by a second or two for each customer paying with cash. Convenience stores sell a lot of products, but they really sell is speed of service. According to Jeff Leonard, a spokesperson for the group, he said he couldn't say if the nickel usage would increase, but he did say that without the penny, cash transactions would be rounded to the nearest nickel. By the way, the nickel is 75% copper and 25% nickel, so that gives you an idea of what you're dealing with as far as monetary value in it. Now, there is something that is not being mentioned in many of these pieces, is that the United States Mint has done a study and has been doing studies about the efficacy of changing the metallic composition of all circulating coins, because the nickel has the least amount of copper between what's left. The half dollar, the quarter, and the dime have 88% copper in them, and so there is that. So the United States it's not the first country to dump the least valuable coin. Canada did so successfully in 2012, and they stopped using them entirely the next year. One reason is that the U.S. government has to make so many pennies each year because as a large percentage of them don't remain in circulation. They're stashed in penny jars or junk drawers at home. I'm raising my hand. I'm part of those that have a bunch of this stuff. That's why I'm able just to grab some of this stuff and pull it out, because I tend to use cash a lot, and that pocket change just kind of sits there. And so yeah, and they're stashed in these places, and they fall on the ground, and people don't even bother to pick them up. Although whenever I see a cent or a dime or nickel on the ground, I'm picking it up. Many people don't. People leave behind pennies they get as change, or leave a coin, take a coin dishes on counters of many retailers. Those dishes are increasingly holding nickels as well, which also have very few uses. When people start leaving a monetary unit on the cash register for the next customer, the unit is too small to be useful, according to Gregory Mankiw, a Harvard economics professor and former chairman of the Presidential Council of Economic Advisors under President George W. Bush. But what does that tell us? If it's the start leaving a monetary unit, that means it's too small to be useful. Why is that? Tell us why that is. They don't go there. The reason is because of inflation, the loss of value of this, the dollar, which, by the way, it costs less to make this than it does to make that. That tells you something. And not only that, but you've got the base metals that are worth far more than the actual denomination from which they have, which means that any kind of silver coin that you get that has a lower denomination, it just gives you an example of what they're trying to do here in the United States and other countries around the world with their bullion silver coins. It's kind of a strange thing. It's a twisting sort of Gresham's law to a degree. But nonetheless, this is where we're at. Let me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to you all for taking the time to watch, and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.